Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about the parts of the country that have the worst housing shortages. We have a very cool chart. Like charts. We know you guys like charts. I did get this from online. I think this is a realtor.com chart, but I'm going to share the link in the description. You'll be able to go click on it because it's got every city and it tells you exactly the shortage.
So it must be true because it was online.
It was online. It's got to be true. And then the other cool thing is we're in our march down to our 1,000th video. We have less than 20 to go. So we're having a lot of fun with that.
That's right.
We've been doing them every day for like 2 months. I don't know if we're going to keep doing them every day.
Okay, so I want to know from you guys, like, is a video a day right up your alley? Or are you guys going, hey, you know what, guys? 3 videos a week, 4 tops, that's totally cool. You know, give us some feedback. We want to know what you think because, okay, we're going to keep marching to this 1,000 video goal. But once we get there, you know, we want to know kind of what you guys want to watch because we're not doing this just for our own benefit, which clearly we are because we just like talking, but we're also doing it because we like engaging with you guys. So how often should we put these out? Give us some thoughts.
We know how it could be like if you miss an episode or whatever. So we just don't want like people to feel like they have to watch this every day because we know it's easy to get like, oh, I got to watch it every day. I might miss something, right? So if you're okay with us doing it 3 times a week or whatever, then let us know.
Yeah.
We'll keep doing the videos. We just don't want to I don't want to do them every day and then not, pointlessly not do them. If you guys are okay with like 3 a week or whatever, after we get to 1,000, we'll do that. Okay. So here's the chart. We're going to put this chart up and then we're going to talk about it. Okay. So this is chart of the US. This is the top few hundred metro areas in the US. As you can see, they all have a color associated with them. And the color is based on that legend. So red is a high housing shortage. That's a dark red. A lighter red is a housing shortage. And then you can see that there's a peach sort of color, which says need for more permits. We're going to go into detail on that. And then there's blue, which is sufficient supply. And then the other colors are not really relevant because there's not enough people in those areas. They're not statistically, like Montana, right? Or whatever, Wyoming. Okay. Now, so you can also see on this chart, we grabbed the Las Vegas data, and we have other data that we're going to talk about on here. Now, Las Vegas has an advantage that some of these other places, we'll say San Diego, doesn't have, and also the Bay Area. What's the advantage Las Vegas has with building new housing that these other areas don't have?
Well, there is space around us, right? Because we can expand. Okay. We can expand. Either in the valley or past the valley because we do have land, sort of, because the land isn't owned by somebody who can actually build on it. The land is owned by the federal government. It's owned by the Bureau of Land Management. So that's an advantage Las Vegas has. But a place like San Diego or the Bay Area, obviously to the west, they have ocean.
Yeah.
So that cuts out the building for the most part.
They have hills.
They have hills.
And bays. And
right. Well, we have mountains, but so
sure.
that's kind of a push right there. But so they're really very restricted as to where that they can build. And remember, they have a much higher density than we have, and their economic core is different than ours. So all of that plays into it, and that's part of the reason why Southern California has such traffic problems is because of the way their economic core is situated versus where residences are.
Yeah, and that's really the key there for that. The other thing with Las Vegas is you're driving around and you see there's a subdivision, and then just like north of it or west of it or east of it or wherever, there'll be nothing, just be open desert. And you may not be able to just go build on the land, like put a subdivision in, because like Wanda said, Bureau of Land Management owns it. But it's much easier to have that land released and then connected to sewer, connected to water, connected to electricity, because all those things are right there because they're powering that subdivision over. So the cost to connect new land, which is basically flat, and then just build houses on is much less. So you go to San Diego where you can't really do that. You have to tear down a house or somehow find a way to put a house on a little bitty piece of land if you're going to build in a centrally located area, or tear down a house, split the lot in two, right? There's more barriers, okay? Now, The key on this chart is most of the country is substantially short for housing, and except for the blue areas. Now, the blue areas you're probably saying, but Todd, we know there's a ton of people moving to these areas, and there's a lot of job growth, so is there sufficient supply? Well, that's because the home builders are down there in crazy large numbers building in those areas. Why is it easy to just throw up homes in parts of Texas, Florida, the South, the Carolinas? Why is that relatively easier than, West Coast and Northeast?
So part of it is they've got flat land, they've got good weather, which means that they have a much longer building cycle, right? As opposed to
so it's not snowing all the time,
right?
Okay.
So they have all those advantages, and then of course, their regulation regarding building is more maybe builder friendly. So maybe they have a faster way of getting permits approved and everything done to make it easier for builders to build. Now we know that Texas in particular is pretty friendly in that way because we have some experience with that, and we've heard from people that in other parts of the South and Southeast it's that way as well.
Yeah, that sums it up. I did spend a lot of time in the South in the Marine Corps. It's very flat. They have a lot of pine trees. It's easy to chop down some pine trees to build houses. The other thing too is, remember, these are red states. They tend to have less rules and regulations regarding everything. So, like Wanda said, building permits easier to have happen. They're easier to get access to this land and build to accommodate people. Okay, now here's the magic number. You've been looking at the bottom of this chart, Las Vegas, Henderson, Paradise. That is our metro area. We went through this thing, MSA. It's a metropolitan statistical area or whatever. It was also called the market service area by the REOs. But here's the bottom line: 51,000 new jobs. There were a total of 15,000 permits pulled for total units, but for single family, there were only 11,000 permits pulled. So the number's 1 for 5 for total new jobs created. Now this is a year. This was in a 12-month look back. Mm-hmm. So in a 12-month look back, there were 11,000 permits pulled for new homes. Okay, so there's two things about that 11,000 number. We were told all the unbuilt homes in Las Vegas were going to flood the market and crash it. There were only 11,000 total permits pulled for the entire year for basically all of the Las Vegas metro area.
Right, and that's going to include the custom homes. It's going to include owner-built homes, and it's going to include the tract homes that are available for everybody to purchase.
And almost all of these were sold. They were sold at the construction at the new home site. Mm-hmm. Most of these new home subdivisions some did drop out, but then they came back under contract. If they didn't come back under contract, a few of them hit the MLS. So this tells you right here that in Las Vegas, we don't have like tens of thousands of homes people come on the video because they watch the idiots who are making the ridiculous videos they're making shit up. Oh, there are 50,000 houses that are blah, blah, blah. No, there were only 15,000 total permits pulled, and that included multifamily and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. 11,000 single family homes. They were all sold. Okay. They're not getting ready to flood the market. But for 51,000 jobs, Wanda, what's the historical long-term number for the number of homes that have to be built for every job created? Or what's that ratio?
I don't know what that ratio is, but I would assume that it's going to be a lot closer to maybe like a 5-to-1.
It's 2-to-1.
It's 2-to-1, okay.
So for every 2 jobs is created historically, and this number was up to basically from the 70s to like 2008. Mm-hmm. There were, for every 2 jobs that were created in the country, we added a single family home. Mm-hmm. Okay? And it makes sense if you think about it. A job is created, somebody moves into a house, and either a person moves in with them that also has a job, or that person goes to an apartment or some other thing. But for single family homes, it was 2-to-1. Okay. It's 1 in 5 for Las Vegas. There was 1 house made for every 5 new jobs. These are net new jobs created. And you can see that's why we need to have more permits. We need to build more homes. We're under building homes. Mm-hmm. Now, in the description, you can go click and go through all of these. What you're gonna find is that San Francisco has a very high number. They also have NIMBYs. What are NIMBYs?
Not in my backyard.
And what don't not my backyard people want?
They want affordable housing in someone else's backyard.
What about the city? the downtown San Francisco, they've talked about like tearing down houses and putting in like mid-rises and stuff, but people don't like that idea. Why don't they like it?
Well, San Francisco has other problems. I mean, we all know that if you've visited San Francisco in the last few years, it's a beautiful city, but it's not a very, it used to be a walkable city, but it isn't anymore
Okay.
because of the vast numbers of, I guess, indigents
Yeah.
that are on the street. And they are, they have mental problems, they have criminal problems, and on top of that, San Francisco has decided that they are not going to either protect businesses nor individuals. So if they're not going to protect life, property, so who wants to live in that environment? Right. I mean, you're not going to be able to walk down the street without having human waste on your shoes.
Okay.
It's really so unfortunate. I love San Francisco. I've spent a lot of time there. It's one of my favorite places in the world, and it's really heartbreaking to see what has become of it.
Yeah, and so San Francisco has its own. If you just want to find out what's going on with San Francisco, just go on Twitter, okay, and you'll because you have a high number of people in San Francisco on Twitter, so you'll be able to see the videos and see what's going on. But one of the things too is that those people do not want vertical development. They like the fact they can walk a block to a restaurant or to a small grocery store and not have a lot of people in there. They can get on either a subway train and not have the subway stations packed. They don't want to have their very nice utopia of, not highly popular. This is not New York City.
So what you have to understand is San Francisco has about 450,000 residents. So it's not, overly populated. To put it in perspective, Vegas has over 2 million.
Yeah,
so,
think about this. Vegas is 5 times the population.
Right.
And the city of San Francisco is actually pretty big. It's not just the little financial district. It's a sprawling area. It includes Golden Gate Park. Now, the neighborhoods are named. They have Pacific Heights and Presidio and all these other areas, North Beach, et cetera, that are all named. But that's all the city of San Francisco. It's very spread out. It's a very not densely populated area. They've done a really good job with that.
Right.
But now when you want to add housing, you can't do it.
No, and they have a lot of single-family homes in there. A lot of them are historic. So that's another challenge that they have. I think one of the things that they're going to have to do is, before they can consider how to deal with a housing shortage in San Francisco, is they're going to have to deal with what's happening on the street level. Until they handle what's on the street level, nothing else is going to matter.
Okay. We did not intend to go into this pivot about San Francisco, but we just wanted to point out that anytime you have a lack of building, there's always a reason. Okay. Now, San Diego has some structural issues with physically that it's already built out, right?
Right. So San Diego's, it's a geographic issue, right?
It's mostly geographic, but like Wanda says too, is if you get a job in the city, you want to live in the city, and until like high-rises, San Diego is a historically relatively new thing. They didn't have, first of all, people didn't work in the city. There wasn't much in the city. Now there's a lot in the city, so you do have people that live and work in the city, but you can only put so many high-rises.
Well, and again, San Diego is rather protective of its skyline. They are putting in some mid-rise developments in Little Italy. A lot of those are rentals. They are not for purchase. So they are trying to kind of mitigate that whole housing thing. But, like I said, you've got this core in San Diego where there are a lot of jobs, and then everybody else is kind of getting pushed out to the suburbs, and that's what's causing a lot of the traffic. And that's part of what's causing the housing shortage in San Diego, because you've got to go all the way to Chula Vista or someplace like that to
east or north,
right? For housing. And it's a hike. I mean, so I guess it depends on where you're coming from as to how long your commute is acceptable to you. But it is going to be a substantial commute.
Okay, I'm going to give you perspective. If you go and click on these numbers and you look at San Diego, there were 60,000 jobs made in the preceding 12 months. There were 3,600 single-family building permits pulled in the last year. And the MSA is essentially San Diego to Oceanside. So it's the entire North County coast, the city of San Diego, it's the whole area.
Right, and the 36,000 permits.
No,
that,
3,600.
I'm sorry, the 3,600 permits. 3,600 permits does not mean that 3,600 homes were built. That's the other thing to keep in mind, because just because permits are pulled doesn't mean that those homes ever get built, or that they get built within a reasonable amount of time. So that's something else to keep in mind, because sometimes those permits have to be renewed because for whatever reason people couldn't build, didn't build. So that's something to keep in mind.
So that's 1 in 16. That's it. That means for every 16 jobs, they built a house. And you wonder why home prices are skyrocketing and why rents are going up. I think San Francisco's 4th or 5th in the country for highest rent. There's like San Francisco, New York, San Diego. It's one of them. It's in the top couple. Miami's been going up dramatically. Same reason. Miami has one advantage. They have a, they have. It's easier to build high rises there. They put high rises all over the place. They're growing vertically.
Right.
They can go out. They do have, you can go out quite a bit before you run into Everglades.
Yes.
Okay. So you do have land that you can throw some stuff up on. And you can go north and south up the coast. And pretty soon Florida, the whole thing is going to be all connected. You'll be able to drive from Jacksonville, and then drive all the way down. It'll just be, that's I-95. You'll be drive I-95 the whole way. It'll just be completely populated the whole way, just like almost SoCal is, except for Pendleton. When you drive up, it's all populated.
Right. So what's next?
Okay, so the whole reason for this was to show you that for the most part, the West Coast, even though it's been, we have another video we're going to do where we talk about the specific changes in prices. But we have a substantial shortage of new home building on the West Coast. Yes, California had a net year, first time ever, I think it was 2021, where people left the state. It was the first time in 80 years since they'd been measuring the population in the state, or maybe it was 100 years, that the population declined. They actually lost an electoral vote when the census redid the thing.
Right, but that did not result in their housing shortage being cured because more people left it than moved in. Their housing shortage is so severe that really didn't make a dent in it. 60,000 people left the state, or 60 or 80,000 people left the state total, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was enough to tip the scale because other states grew. And then when they redo all the numbers, California and New York both lost electoral votes. Texas and Florida each picked up electoral votes because you had people, net people moving there, and it just moved the numbers just enough to do it. But you don't see a lot of new home constructions in California, and this chart shows it. Southern Nevada, which you can call California light, but we still have a problem. We don't build enough. The most of the South is fine, but the Northeast, as you can see, is a mess for the same reason. It's already super populated, and they just don't. They have the same problem California has. They just can't throw up houses. They have all this land that's already allocated for stuff. So what we're trying to show you is this housing, single-family housing, is a asset class that is in high demand. And when you saw home prices go up, this is why they went up. And so what does this mean for the future, Juana? Are new home builders magically going to say, you know what, we've had it, we're going to just go build like crazy so everyone can have a house to move into? No, so they're not going to do that. Not because they can't make a profit, but because they have certain constraints. So they have constraints of land, of materials, of labor. So these are all real constraints, and they're physical constraints. We're going to do a video, and we're going to put up how they come up with those list prices on those new homes and where all the money gets spent. Because I saw that in an article the other day, and I thought it was just super interesting. And there were things in there that surprised me. So I hope you'll find it interesting too. We'll do that video maybe in a couple of days.
It's actually fascinating, and it also goes to show why you do not find more affordable housing. Why that we've said this for a long time, that new home construction tends to be higher end, especially in Vegas. The luxury market is in Las Vegas. Most of it, by far, 80% of it, has all been built in the last 10 years. We have the older stuff that existed before, but the last 10 years is when all the builders moved in. They started building these newer, call them luxury homes, $1 million plus, whatever, and that's one of the reasons that when you can't go out and buy a brand new $200,000 house. No. You really can't do that.
No, there isn't anything like that, and there is no product like that in Vegas right now. But you can go out and spend easily $2, $3, $4, $5 million on a lot to put a single home on it.
Yeah.
So because it's really interesting. So we'll do that video for you, and you'll see where all this money's kind of going. One of the things that I found interesting was the high cost of land overall, and how that really is outsized versus all the other expenditures when it comes to what builders spend. So we'll put up that chart for you when we do that video, and you'll get to see it.
So we want to know where in the country you're watching from, if you made it this far, and if this makes sense. Like if you can see your county, usually these are all based on counties, and then see, hey, this is my county, and it kind of makes sense that, you know, home prices are going up, or there's a lot of building, especially if you're watching from the south, or if you're in like El Paso, right, which is all blue there.
And we do know that Dallas, you have high rents, so we're not ignoring you. We're just picking on certain places.
Yeah, we're just picking on certain places. So, and of course, a lot of you I know are in either SoCal or in Vegas or in Phoenix or in those markets, and you're kind of seeing all the red and the oranges, and you kind of have been living with this for quite a while. The other thing we want to know is what your thoughts are about us doing this video every day. Like, do you have to see it every day? Because we may not be able to continue to crank out. Like, it's a huge production effort for us to film these with the massive staff that we have, wardrobe and, you know, lighting and all the people that it takes to run this whole enterprise.
Yes.
And, you know, in video editing and all the, you know, thumbnail creation and everything.
So thank you for watching. We appreciate you making it this far. We know we meandered. We apologize. Hope you had a good time anyway. Please like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave us some comments. We want to read them, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.